You submit tricking clips, I give you tips. Let's go. This submission is from Zat, and he says, I need help with the inversion of my rise. I always seem to have it sideways. Is it something to do with my body position? I really want to swing through from this. Okay, so your rise isn't bad. There's a ton of power and a ton of speed in it, and you could swing through it right now if you really wanted to. The reason I say that is because there are two things needed for a swing through. You need to have the momentum with that leg swinging, and you need to have your like chest over your hip so that you can get your body moving backwards and let that leg swing through to do a swing through. And you're achieving those things, but you do have hesitation. I can see how your foot kind of clips the ground a little bit, but it looks like you're kind of doing that intentionally because like you kind of like are hesitant to try it. If you did swing this through right now, because of the excess sideways energy that you have, you're gonna go probably like that direction instead of backwards the way you would wanna go, but you could swing it through. I'm not saying this is optimal for swing throughs though. So my question for you would be, how did you learn rise? This to me looks like you learned it from a tornado kick. The reason I say that is because of this part right here. This is basically your max level of inversion in the whole move, and your head is still kind of above your hips, so it's definitely not gonna win any like rise awards. That's not a thing. And this position here is when you're taking off. It looks exactly like you're just trying to tornado kick something just directly above your head, or where your head was. Like, you know what I'm saying. If you want to change nothing and still have a pretty good rise, you could probably achieve it even taking off like this. The way you would do that is right here, right when you're taking off. And then for the rest of the rise, you want to push your hip forward as hard as you can and arch your back as hard as you can. This is going to create that like classic rise shape. And even if you take off sort of like a tornado kick, you can have a crap ton of power in your rise. So really focus on pushing your hips forward as much as you can from this position and onward until after you've landed. Keep pushing forward basically. Maybe like right before you land, you could let it go. If you did arch like crazy, this would prevent you from landing low like this. As I was saying before, your chest is technically above your hips, so you could swing it, but you don't want your chest this close to your leg to swing through optimally. You don't get your chest all the way up until after your foot has basically hit the ground. If you arch your back and push your hip forward like I was saying before, then you'll already be in this position by the time you land. And while I think you should push your hip forward that much, my actual recommendation would be to go back and learn how to kick a little bit earlier and a little bit more backwards like I talk about in my rise tutorial. By the time you're here, you should already have your leg kind of up in the air, and you are kicking super late. But unlike Ethan in my last video on his touchdown rise, you are kicking, and aggressively at that. It's really good power. It's just that you're kicking way too late and you're kind of kicking sideways with like your outer glutes like a crescent kick rather than kicking backwards like a, you know, kicking yourself in the back of the head or like scorpion kick or something. Well, scorpion kick, whatever. Or like a hook kick like I was saying to Ethan and in my touchdown rise tutorial. You should use your glutes and your hamstrings to initiate the inversion and the power, and then it takes over into that like sort of crescent, more like pulling with your quads down towards your face as you arch and you push your hips forward. So to recap, you're doing a really good step. You need to kick backwards instead of kicking crazy sideways, and you need to push your left hip forward as hard as you can while you pull your right leg back as hard as you can and arch your back as much as you can as you spot the ground. If you do those things, you should land standing up with your right leg still charged and kind of locked in the chamber, and then you swing your leg through. If you do a proper swing through, you can land and kind of wait a second before you even pull the leg through for the swing through. So if you're ever going for a swing through and you're like uncertain whether you have the power to swing it or not, you don't have the power to swing it. Like, you will feel it. The next one is also from Zat, and he wants help on his cart full. Rise and cart full, that sounds familiar. He says, need help landing more chest up on my cart fulls. It feels kind of sketchy and low. How do I get into eagle position?
Oh, God.
So again, Zat, this is kind of the same advice that I gave Ethan last video, but I'll go over it anyway, because you guys are different people and you're doing slightly different things. So Zat, what you're really good at is explosive energy. Again, like Ethan in the last video, you're not really using your setup that much. Like, you're kind of doing a cartwheel and then just doing a good standing full. So my first recommendation would be to get your legs going faster, and really, like, as you're stepping down, as soon as you feel that right foot touch the ground, you should kind of lock and stiffen your body so that when the left leg comes down, this leg is coming down and your body and head come up at the same exact time. So it's like right leg touches, then left leg and head come up at the exact same time. That's gonna give you a lot of momentum to flip, and also will keep all that momentum like in your body. It's hard to conceptualize momentum, but if you can think about it like you're like collecting little like water bubbles or something, I don't know how to explain it. You're trying to make your body super big and open with a lot of speed, and then you're gonna pull that speed into yourself and bring all of that momentum into you. And then anytime you kind of like relax, you let those bubbles or let that water like leak out of you in different places. I know this is a weird analogy, but like that's how it feels, and that's kind of how it works. But basically you're getting some momentum, completely letting it go and like stopping yourself, and then eating yourself with a ton of like muscle power and pulling yourself over. If you kept the connection from your cart and your full like really smooth, then you're gonna have a ton of power to work with. That's kind of why you're hitting the ground hard with your feet. Form-wise, it's not bad. It's a little more of like a front half type cart full, but most good cart fulls are kind of front half type cart fulls. Yours is a little like excessive, but it'll work itself out over time. I wouldn't worry about changing like that part right now. So if you fix the cartwheel connection, then that's gonna give you a lot more height and therefore a lot more momentum to work with. Because right now, if you tried to eagle, you wouldn't be able to eagle essentially, or you'd eagle and you just land really hard on your left leg and your back would be kind of straight or arched and you just like crunch most likely. So getting that extra momentum is really gonna help you. From there, it's literally the same thing as the Raiz advice that I gave you. Once you make that first turn and you like turn your shoulder, then you can just arch your back and put your leg out and push your hip forward like I was explaining in your Raiz, and you will do a perfect eagle if you have enough momentum. Remember, whenever you have momentum and you like are bringing it in and then opening it back up, that slows you down. So you can think of it like a parachute or a wingsuit or something. You open and then you speed up by bringing it in. But if you open again, it's gonna slow you down. So you need an excessive amount of momentum to be able to open up and still have momentum going. I hope that makes sense. So these two moves are connected for you, man. The Raiz will fix the cart full. And if you can fix your cart setup, then you can use your cart full to kind of teach yourself the body shape for the Raiz also. It's kind of a tricking meme, but once you get to a certain level, you realize that almost all tricks are a Raiz. It's really not a joke. So many tricks have that Raiz shape. You're twisting, you're kicking a leg back, then you're arching, and then you're going for a swing through. So in summary for this, go faster in your cartwheel, stay stiff when you're standing up in your cartwheel, that's gonna launch you up in the air. When you are doing your cart full, spot the ground, and then as soon as you know that you're turning and you look over that left shoulder, arch everything and keep your back as stiff as possible. I'm talking like super arched, because then your momentum will continue in that direction. As soon as you relax, you're gonna waste all your momentum. To get a successful swing through, you just land on that left leg, keep that right leg behind you, and the momentum will carry through against your will. You just have to ride it as if you're a surfer. You don't control the wave when you surf, you just control what you do on the wave. So you want a lot of momentum pulling you, and then you control what you do with that momentum, or like on that momentum, if that makes sense. But you don't control the momentum itself. So I hope that helped you, Zat. You have a ton of natural power. Keep tricking, use these tips. Let me see you get cleaner. Again, I'm so sorry these are so late. I guess better late than never. I really hope these tips help you out. Zat and anyone else who uses these tips, please send me some footage of you trying it because I want to see your improvement. But until then, please stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you guys later.